Welcome back to another episode of You Are My Brother. I apologize, I've been gone for a little while here. I've been doing some traveling, but I wanted to bring to you an episode today talking about agriculture and why growing your own food should be the most important thing that we focus on here. And this topic was a little heavy to me because, to be honest with you, I've been one to shop at the grocery store. But as I get older in age, I'm starting to realize what should be my priority. So, I want to share some thoughts with you here today. And if you're new to the channel, please feel free to like the content, feel free to share the content, but also, most importantly, let me know your thoughts and comments below. You Are My Brother, episode 15. So, today, I want to talk about why agriculture is so important. So, I was just reading some information and it talked about how Black people are not really farming. And I don't say that, across the board because I don't really believe in any, absolutes out there. And I'm pretty sure that there are many Black Americans or Latino Americans who are owning land and farming. But as you can clearly see, that there's definitely a need for us to maybe kind of switch our ways. And what I really mean by that is we need to get back to agriculture. Growing your own food should be one of the most important priorities in your life. Reason why is that there are really three essential things that you need to survive, no matter where you are in the world. One of those is food. Food and water are really the same thing to me. So, food, water, shelter, and clothing. But as I look around, I'm saying to myself, where is the all of the Black farmers? And I know that the US government has now tried to implement some money to Black farmers to get Black farmers back to doing what they did best, due to the fact that they have been essentially kind of, run off their own lands and stop farming. And there's this notion out there that we don't farm anymore. And I think that this is truly sad. And the reason being is that I'm getting older in age and I'm starting to realize that, why am I giving all of my money to these grocery stores? Now, many of you may not know, but I happen to live in New York City most of the time. And sometimes I travel down to Atlanta. And when you live in these places that are really concrete cities, the idea is for you to go to work and then, you need food, you go to a restaurant, or if you need food, you go to a grocery store. And I'm starting to say to myself, you know what? Something doesn't feel right here. What do I mean by that? A lot of times that you go to the grocery store, you have no idea of where that food is coming from. And trust me, I am not one who's, always eating healthy. I don't always go to farmers markets, but I'm starting to wake up now. And I want to be able to share this thought with you guys, is that we need to get back to essentially growing our own foods. Think about it. You go to the grocery store, you have no idea where this food comes from. And the idea should be that, let's say, for instance, if you're buying local fruit and veg, you know, why is the food not local? For instance, if you're in New York, why does the food not come from upstate New York? Why does it not come from New Jersey? And no matter where you are in the world, or if I visit, Atlanta, I'm seeing foods coming from all the way in California, all the way from these other places. And I'm thinking about myself, is that the food essentially has to be picked from the ground, transported way across the country, and then I pay more for it when I buy it at the grocery store. And I'm starting to say to myself, you know what? This is truly sad. We have to get back to growing our own food. The food should be locally sourced as much as possible if you can. So I understand for some people out there that this may be difficult to do because you might not have access to a grocery store or local products by you, but we have to get back to essentially growing our own food. So, which is going to bring me on to the next point. How do we do that? We do that by essentially doing two things. One is that if you are, let's say, a Black or Latino person living somewhere in America or the world, you could be in Africa, you could be, in Asia, you could be somewhere in Latin America, you could be wherever. The one thing I would caution people to do is The first thing is we have to stop selling our lands to these corporate companies. Did you know that Bill Gates is now single handedly the owner of the most farmland in America? And I'm saying to myself, this is ridiculous. Why would Bill Gates own so much farmland? And I'm saying to myself, this just can't be. So, two people out there who I understand you have a lot of land. You might want to sell your land to make some money. I'm not knocking you on that, but essentially what's going to happen in the future as we look forward is that it's going to be harder and harder for individuals to own land to be able to grow their own crops, meaning that we're now going to be so dependent upon these restaurants and upon these big wholesale farmers or big wholesale retailers of food to where we don't individually grow our food anymore. So we have to stop selling essentially. We really do. We have to stop selling our food, our lands, so that way we are not giving so much up to these corporate conglomerates who just want to buy land and sell you food and control your seeds, control your land. And I'm saying to myself, no, this can't be. The second part is now, if you have the money, and I must shout out, I watch a lot of YouTube content out there, and I'm starting to see a lot of, brothers and sisters who are now moving back to the continent of Africa. And they're starting to buy land to be able to grow their own foods. And I am so proud of those individuals. But if you are a person living in America, you might want to start giving some idea to moving out of these concrete cities or moving to a place that will allow you to start buying your own land to where you can start growing food. Imagine if you were able to grow food in your own local community. Go to a farmer's market to where brothers and sisters just like myself will be able to find your products. We will support you. So, if you have the money, please give some thought to maybe moving out of some of these big cities and concrete jungles essentially and start buying farmland so that way you can start growing your own food, and then people will support you. Please understand that you will have a tremendous amount of support if you can. The other thing I want to talk about is I was recently in the city of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm not saying that this is not true or this is true or it's not true. But one thing I did have a hard time finding was I had a hard time really finding black grocery stores. And I said to myself, no way. There's a city like Atlanta, very progressive. A lot of black people live in the city. And I even tried to find Latino based, grocery stores. And I was having a hard time finding them. It may be due to my Google results or my Yelp results that I couldn't find them. Now, I found some that are like food co-ops to where, there are some African Americans who own stakes within these companies. But I want to be able to support my brothers and sisters wholeheartedly to where it is 100% Black owned or Latino owned. And I really want to be able to do that. And I'm pretty sure I cannot be the only one. So, why would a city like Atlanta not have black grocery stores and not have that many? And I said to myself, this has just got to be a shame. And case in point, as an example, I was speaking to my father, and my father, my mother, they're in their 70s, right? And they grew up down south in America. And they talked about when they were kids, for instance, that, you couldn't really go to grocery stores due to, racism or prejudice or people not really wanting you there. But they used to routinely have a gentleman who may come by, sell you bananas, sell you watermelons, fruits and vegetables were plentiful everywhere down south. And as I travel throughout the South now, you don't really see that anymore. And I said to myself, why is this? I've also lived in New York for a large part of my life. And the one thing about New York is that if you want to, you can find fruit and veg on the street. You can find this everywhere. But I said to myself, in Atlanta, I'm really having a hard time finding this. So I was talking to my father and I said, Dad, why is it that you can't find this stuff anymore? I remember you telling me stories about when you were a kid, you used to be able to go to spend 50 cents and get a whole bushel of bananas and, all the types of fruits and vegetables you want were just right outside and they were all independent. And what happened to that? And he said, well, he believes that Black people have gotten out of that because they don't want to be seen as sharecroppers and farmers because it may be deemed to be low class. And I said to myself, we have got to change this. Our food is the most important thing that you have. The only thing that can be more important than food is oxygen. If you go outside, yeah, you have the ability to breathe in fresh air. But imagine if all your food was taken from you. Then there's another point in this too, is that if you buy locally and you buy your fruit and vegetables not from a grocery store, the one thing that you will find is that you end up saving more money than going to a grocery store and buying these foods. So understand that only is food the most important thing that you can have, but also it will help you save money if you're able to grow your own food. So you don't have to have a lot of farmland. You might just have enough space in your backyard to be able to grow a few fruits and vegetables. Everything doesn't have to be on a grand scale. And pardon me, you may hear my dog drinking some water in the background, but I just wanted to share that with you. And I said to myself, Dad, that this cannot be the case. Is that, we can't look at people as because they're farmers, they're deemed to be lower on the social scale. And I said to myself, no, we have to change this. So I'm just giving, props out there to brothers and sisters who own farmland to keep doing what you're doing. Do not sell to these corporate conglomerates. And if you have some money, please think about owning farmland because there are so many people out there like myself who will definitely support you. And then the other thing too is that this would eliminate the need for food deserts. For instance, me being a New Yorker, I could tell you that there were certain parts of New York that you just would not believe to where there was no grocery stores. Case in point example. Sometimes, I mostly grew up I was born in Queens, lived most of my life in Manhattan. But then as I got older, I wanted to step outside the house and, have things of my own, right? And I lived in a part of Brooklyn and I would take the bus out to, different areas going further out, on the outskirts of Brooklyn. There's an area called East New York, Brooklyn. And what you would find is that this community is heavily influenced by, Black people living there. You have people of Indian descent living there and people of Latin descent. But you would not find any Trader Joe's. You would not find any Whole Foods. You would find little grocery stores that would often charge people exorbitant amounts of money for food. That's one case and example. Let's use an area like in Atlanta, for instance. As you drive south of the city, you tend to get into more Black communities. And some of the grocery stores around there would be things like Kroger, or you would have independent grocery stores, Publix. These places are very high and expensive, at least in my opinion. So I said to myself, why are there not Black farmers markets or grocery stores in these areas? Because we know that in certain Black communities, people just don't have X amount of dollars to be able to randomly throw money at food. So why is there these food deserts here? There are these food deserts because these corporate companies do not want to come in to Black communities because they deem them as people as not having a bunch of money. So we have to change that and get back to basics of growing our own food, sharing it amongst our own people, so that way we can retain some of this wealth and stop giving all of our power to these big corporate companies. So just wanted to share that with you guys here today. So like I said, agriculture is important. Growing your own food is important. Please do not believe any nonsense of people telling you anything different. It is the most important thing. You would save money and you would better be able to control what is going into your food more so than anything. So please give some thought to that. And if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe, like the video. I'm going to be bringing you more content here. But at the end of the day, it's all about uplifting our people, raising awareness, and making sure that we're doing the best thing that we possibly can do to lift our economic status, but also our knowledge base that will promote a healthier lifestyle amongst our people. You Are My Brother, episode 15.